My name is Eleanor, and I am 94 years old.
Habitually. It has been lying to you for years, most likely, telling you that rest is something you will earn later, that peace is a reward waiting on the other side of all your hard work, that the quiet you are searching for is somewhere ahead of you if you can just survive long enough to reach it. I believed that voice too once. For a very long time, I believed it completely. There was a season of my life. I was in my early 60s, though it feels like another lifetime now, when night was my enemy. I do not say that lightly. I would lie down in a perfectly still room, in a comfortable bed, and the moment my head touched the pillow, everything I had managed to outrun during the day would be waiting for me. Every unfinished worry, every old regret that had no name but took up enormous space. Every fear about money, about my children, about whether the choices I had made in my 40s had quietly dismantled something I could never repair. I would stare at the ceiling for hours. Some nights, I would get up and sit at the kitchen table in the dark, just to feel less like I was losing a fight I could not see. My doctor at the time told me this was normal. He said it with such practiced reassurance that I almost believed him. But I knew, the way you know something in the body before the mind will admit it, that what I was living with was not just insomnia. It was a life that had not yet made peace with itself. Managed to outrun during the day would be waiting for me. Every unfinished worry, every old regret that had no name but took up enormous space. Every fear about money, about my children, about whether the choices I had made in my 40s had quietly dismantled something I could never repair. I would stare at the ceiling for hours. Some nights, I would get up and sit at the kitchen table in the dark, just to feel less like I was losing a fight I could not see. My doctor at the time told me this was normal. He said it with such practiced reassurance that I almost believed him. But I knew, the way you know something in the body before the mind will admit it, that what I was living with was not just insomnia. It was a life that had not yet made peace with itself. The turning point did not arrive the way I expected. I had imagined, if it ever came, that it would be dramatic, a revelation, a moment of tremendous clarity that would split my life cleanly into before and after. Instead, it came on an ordinary Tuesday. Late summer, the kind of evening where the light turns gold and the air smells faintly of something you cannot quite name, but somehow recognizes you. I was in the garden. I have always had a garden, my mother's influence, one of the great gifts she left me. and I was doing nothing in particular, just moving slowly between the rows of things growing, touching a leaf here, pulling a small weed there. And I noticed something I had somehow never noticed before. The garden did not worry. Not about the coming frost, not about whether last year's soil was good enough, not about whether it had done enough, grown enough, produced enough to justify its own existence. It simply continued, quietly, stubbornly, beautifully, without apology and without urgency. And I stood there in that gold light with my hands in the dirt, and something in my chest, something I had been clenching for years without realizing, let go. I wish I could tell you it was prominent immediately. It was not. Old habits of worry are patient. They know how to wait. They know how to come back around a side door when you have forgotten to watch for them. But something had shifted in the foundation. And over the months that followed, I found myself doing something I had never done with any real conviction. I began to treat the night as something other than a battlefield. I started to think of sleep, of rest, as a relationship. The way a long marriage is a relationship, something you tend and respect and show up for, even on the nights when it feels like work. Something you do not take for granted because you have learned the hard way what it feels like to lose the thread of it entirely. I made a kind of quiet agreement with the dark. Not in any formal way. There was no ceremony, no resolution written down. It was more like a decision I made somewhere below the level of words. I will not bring the unfinished day into this room. What cannot be solved by darkness will still be there in the morning. The night is not a courtroom. It is not a place where verdicts are issued or accounts are settled. The night is simply rest, and I belong to it completely, from the moment I close my eyes until the moment the light returns. I found, slowly and then almost all at once, that rest is not passive. This surprised me more than almost anything else. We tend to think of sleep as the absence of living, a pause in between the real parts of the day, something we do when we have run out of other things to do. But I came to understand it as something else entirely. I came to see it as the place where the body does its truest and most sacred work, where it repairs what the hours have worn down, where it sorts through everything the mind accumulated and quietly files it away, or releases it, or transforms it into something more useful than raw anxiety. The body knows how to heal. I genuinely believe this. Not in a way that bypasses doctors or dismisses the hard science of medicine. I have a great deal of respect for both. But in the way that a tree knows how to grow toward light, in the way that water knows how to find the lowest point. The body has an ancient wisdom that we spend most of our lives arguing with. And I found that the moment I stopped arguing, the moment I lay down and simply trusted that what needed to happen during those hours of darkness would happen without my supervision, everything changed. I am 94 now. I wake most mornings around 6, not because an alarm tells me to, not because there is somewhere urgent I need to be, but because my body arrives at morning the way a boat arrives at shore, gently, naturally, without force. I have a cup of tea, sometimes two. I sit by the window that faces east and I watch whatever the day has decided to offer. Sometimes it is extraordinary, the kind of light that makes you feel briefly that the world was made this morning and everything is still possible. Sometimes it is gray and quiet and entirely without spectacle. I find I have equal gratitude for both. This took me the better part of 8 decades to learn that peace is not the same as perfection, that a contented morning does not require beautiful weather or a significant occasion. It requires only that you are present inside it, fully, unhurriedly, without one eye already looking toward the afternoon.
So if you came here tonight carrying something heavy, and I suspect you did, because most people who find their way to a voice like mine are carrying something, I want you to hear this. Not as advice. I have not earned the right to tell you what to do with your particular life, and I would not presume to try. Just as something I found to be true after a very long time of looking. The night is not your enemy. The quiet is not empty. And the rest you have been putting off until things settle down, until the children are grown, until the work is finished, until the worry resolves itself. That rest is not waiting on the other side of the difficulty. It is available to you now. It has always been available to you. You only have to be willing to lay down what you are carrying, just for tonight, and trust that it will still be there in the morning if it truly needs attending to. Most of it, I have found, does not. I will be 95 in the spring. If the garden comes in the way I am hoping, I intend to have more tomatoes than any reasonable person could possibly need, and I intend to give most of them away to people I love. I intend to have my tea. I intend to watch the light come in the east-facing window and feel, without forcing it, that particular quiet gratitude that has no name in any language I know, but that I recognize the moment it arrives. And tonight, as I do every night, as I have done for 30 years, I will make my agreement with the dark. I will lay down what the day brought. I will close my eyes, and I will trust. That is all. That has always been enough. Thank you for sitting with me today. Go gently now.